Hi, and welcome once again to this Bonitasoft webinar. Are you ready to plug into BPM? My name is Talia, and I'm Bonitasoft's community evangelist. And today we have a very important topic, because I would say it's like the basis. What does BPM offer to me as a developer? And for answering this question, we have the chance of having a real expert on the topic. Our special guest is one of the most influential Spanish thought leaders in BPM. As for more than 20 years, he has been dedicated to promote industry awareness of business process management in Spain and Latin America. As a widely respected consultant, he helps and advises organizations in their BPM initiatives and digital transformations. He has more than 20 years of professional experience in IT market, with a complete background and skills in sales, marketing, and business development. He holds himself a computer science engineering degree from the Universidad Politécnica of Madrid. He is the co-founder and president of the chapter in Spain of ABPMP International, and currently he is also the director and professor at the BPM Master in UNIR. So our special guest is Pedro Robledo. Hi, Pedro. Hi again, and thank you for being here with us today.
Okay, thanks, Talia, for this opportunity, and thanks to all attendees. It is a pleasure to be here today talking about my passion in business process management. So let us discover what does BPM offer to the business process developers. First of all, I would like to start with this quote of Michael Porter. Processes are the fundamental component of competitive advantage. The essence of a strategy is to accomplish processes differently than our competitors. What does it mean? Imagine two companies, two competitors. If they are using the same technology, they don't have any competitive advantage using technology. The most important thing for these companies is to accomplish differently the processes that they have, that they use. So if they change the manner to use the different activities using technology, they will be better competitor than the others. So the most important focus is to be focused on how to do things. So that is the most important, how to do things. And for that, the developers have a great challenge. What is the developer challenge? Any developer, if they want to program an application that makes it easy to orchestrate an end-to-end process, they have to manage two kinds of data. Business data, the data as data from customers, invoices, all information that they have to manage in a process. But the most important thing and the most important challenge for this developer is to develop and to program the workflow. How they have to program the operational data, how to make the transactional operations. This is a great challenge. And maybe if they try to program this workflow, they will have to spend more than 6 or 9 months to do that. And the problem is when they will have any changes to the process, because they will have to reprogram the application, to reprogram the workflow, and then they will have to maintain the workflow in the programming language, and it's very expensive, and they will spend too much month. So if any program, any developer, when they have to program an application, they have to use business data, and they would like to program the operational data, we have to think about the following questions. First of all, any developer will program using, they don't program the database management system. Normally, the developer, when they custom build application programming, they use database engine. They will be using the relational database management system as Oracle, SQL Server, MySQL. Why? Because they will have all the possibilities to manage the entity relationship model. They can use triggers. They can use the different features of the database. So if we use business data management system to program any application for business, why, when the developer would like to develop a process-driven application, why develop a custom-built application to orchestrate an end-to-end process without a BPM engine? The answer is never we have to develop a process-driven application without a business process management system, because we need to manage the operational data by default. The BPM engine is going to manage all the operational data for us, and we will be able to extract data, operational data, the event logs of the applications that we use in the process, end-to-end process, from the beginning to the end, and we will be able to know when the different instances of processes, the processes instances, we will know, for instance, if we have a gateway here, how many times the workflow goes by here, or using a parallel activities. The most important thing is that we don't have to be focused on to assign roles using programming language, because to assign roles to the activities is possible to use using the technology of BPM. So what is BPM? BPM is not only technology, it's a business management discipline. And this discipline is focused on continuous improvement of the processes of any company. And what we are looking for? We are looking for a company and an organization that is process-oriented. This means that we are focused on the strategy. We have to decide what activities we have to do to improve the business processes, because we would like to get goals, strategic goals. And for that, we will have to manage people. And in many cases, when we are going to make optimizations in the process, in the business processes, we will be focused on people to reassign the different roles with different employees. And we will have to use different methodologies in all BPM lifecycle. We will have to be aligned to a strategy. Of course, we are going to use BPM technologies because we have to automate activities, we have to automate processes, we have to manage the data operational, and we have to optimize the process using technology to monitorize the processes and also to discover differences between the real process and the process that we have modeled using process mining. It's important in process-oriented organization to have rules, to have different policies using BPM government. So we have to define the meta model, and in that case, we will have all the organization focus on business process and the best practice to manage the business process. These components are very important, but the most important component in business process management is to change the culture of the company. If any company wants to go to be a process-oriented organization, they will have to change the mentality of people. And people has to change to be focused on business process management, but always oriented to the business strategy. So we have with business process management discipline to be focused on the strategy and to be focused on the most important changes that we would like to make in the business process that I have. Let me to introduce the answers to the question of the webinar with five main reasons to develop application, process-driven application using BPM. Maybe you know the image, sorry, I have made a spoiler of the next ones. So maybe you know here this drawing, and for instance, when I was a developer with a programming language, or when I was a business product manager of Borland International, we have the problem that in the design phase, we understand what the customer would like to have as an application, and at the end, we make different situation of the application, and at the end, it's required to change many things to have the wishes that the customer would like to have. So the frequent errors during the design are the more expensive, the later they are removed. This is the first law of BPM. But in BPM, we don't have this problem. And why? Because we decide to, first of all, in a strategic planning phase in the BPM life cycle, we decide where is the focus of the process, and with the conceptual model, we design the when the process starts and when the process finishes. I mean, where is the beginning of the process, how started is the process instance, and when finish the process. So we know exactly the process, the end-to-end process. In the conceptual model, normally you decide what is the mission of the process and what is the vision of the process. The mission is what is the process, for what is that process, for whom is that process, and why we have this process in the company, why it's relevant. And for the vision, we have to design what is the KPIs that we would like to measure, and what is the future wishes of the process, how we would like to know that the process is the behavior in the future. Once we know the end-to-end process, we have to decide the logic model of the process. This is a modeling using BPMN, the standard ISO. And in that case, we model the process using the standard without restrictions. So this is made by business people, normally the business process owners. So we model in BPMN without restrictions, and we analyze the process as is to know if we have to change anything of the process to convert in process to be implemented by IT. So IT takes the BPM in business, and now they have to model in BPM, but with restrictions. The restrictions of the technology that we are using to implement the processes in a BPMS, using integration with different applications, integration with data, integrations with Internet of Things, with social networks, with anything. So in this case, IT is using also BPMN, but they have to develop the forms, they have to make the connections with the database, and we have to assign to the roles of the activities the different people that we have in the company. So at the end, we are using the same language. So business and IT is able to make an alignment. So they have a great communications visualization and control of the business process. So the first reason is to be happy, to have a common language, to have communication between business and IT. The second reason is the ability to orchestrate an end-to-end process. If you are a developer, imagine how to program an orchestration of an end-to-end process. You will have to start defining the database, the entity relationship model, to have different word lists for the different roles in the process. You have to define also, you want to represent the process graphically. You will have to design this or to program this to be able. If you want to have an application that we are not use different menus, we will have to the different word lists for the different people who is making the login to the applications, and then we have to distribute the different tags, and we have to make the registration in the operational data and to manage this database. And of course, if we like to understand what occurs in the past or what is the current status, we have to design different queries to this operational data. It's a great job. It's only useful for one process, and if we would like to make a different application for other process, we have to make a new programming of this application. However, if we are using BPM and we are using a BPMS, we have all by default. You will have different tools to make the process modeling with BPMN. And then in BPM design phase, the IT developer will use a BPMS to define the relationships with database, with the business data, to draw the forms, and also to program the different validations in these forms. And once I have the process template inside the database of the BPMS, I have the model, I have the template. This process model, when it's executed, for instance, this process is resolve customer queries and claims. When a customer calls to make a query or to make a claim, this system, the BPMS, create an instance of the process. So we have different instances processes here. And when this process instance is executing the different tags, the system, the BPMS system, is providing to the different roles the tasks that they have to attend. For instance, in this process instance, we are here, and this is the role green, and this activity goes to the word list of the green role. In this case, to the blue, and in this case, to the pink. So we have in the different word lists of the roles the different tags. Any employee that has this role, they receive the same task. So they are going to assign to the task to be able to execute the task. This operation is by default by BPMS. And all information that occurs in the process instances is saved in the operational data. So we have the event data, and we know what is happening now, in which phase or in which task we are in each process instance, and we know the traceability. So we are able to make a query about the history of any instances of the process by default. The third reason is digitization and automation capacity without limits. With a process management system, we are able to automate a complete process, end-to-end process, and we are able to automate the different components in the process. For instance, we can say, okay, I have here a task that is currently manual, but would like to automate this task using a programming language. So we can make a script and is able to execute automatically. Or we can use a physical robot, for instance, in a manufacturing process. Or we can use robotic process automation in order to automate that kinds of tasks that we are using many data and many operations, for instance, in a desktop that we have to consult to make queries to different applications. So in that case, we can make automatically these tasks. But also we are able to automate the gateways, the decision points in the workflow. In that case, we're going to use BPMN and also DMN, Decision Model Annotation. This notation provides us to develop the diagram and requirements decision. This is the decision tree in order to know the inputs and also the different decisions that we need to try to automate any decision. In this case, this gateway is based in data, and we have to provide the decision before the gateway. In that case, maybe these tags. So we can change these tags to business rule tags, and in this case, we have to define with DMN the decision tree, how it's going to create the automation of this decision, and this decision will have a logic, a decision logic, and we will use, for instance, table decisions. Even we can use a language, but it's more easier to use graphically a table decision. So it is possible to automate a task, to automate a decision, and also to automate a sub-process or the process end-to-end. And the 4 reasons to use BPM for develop applications using business processes is the capacity for adaptability, agility, integration, and compliance. The most important thing is not only the first development phase, because it is very important also to be sure that in the maintenance of the application, you will be able to make the changes on the fly, or to make the changes very quicker. In that case, with BPM, we are able to make changes on the fly when the process is running in the BPMS. If we think in language programming, in any programming language, you be sure that we have to stop the applications, make the changes, and then to put in execution, implement the application, but people will have to be waiting for the new solutions. In the case of BPMS, we are able to make changes on the fly, so we can change, for instance, this model process and to add a new flow because we have any new exceptions, and we will be able to apply these new exceptions to all process instances that they are running in the BPMS. And also, we will be able to make integrations with different systems or applications, or to get data from different systems. We will be able to use social networks. We will be able to execute automatically the word list in a mobile environment. We will be able to define the different cloud possibilities. And also we will be able to make that machines will be participants of the process. So we will be able to send instructions to any machines, and we will be able that any machines respond about anything, or to send with sensors the data that we need to decide where we have to go in the workflow. The most important thing in BPMS is that we have 3 levels. We have the user interface level, in this case, sorry. We have also the data, and we have the workflow. So we have to make changes in these different levels independently. So we have a great opportunity to change many things without to stop the operations. So if we think about development, we are saving cost saving, because we are able to build the application very quick. Normally in any programming language, we are spending 6 or 9 months to make an application, and with BPMS, we will be able to have the application ready in 30 or 50 days. And about maintenance, we will be able to change on the fly. So we can be very quicker to have a time market of the applications, and we will be able to include, for instance, a new procedure, because the law is required to introduce a mandatory the procedure in the process. So we will be able to make the changes and to provide those restrictions to the business processes that currently we are executing. And 5, but not least, process monitoring capabilities, qualitative and quantitative analysis of processes. It is very important to know that with BPMS, we have different tools that provide the capability of make tracing and visibility, and of course, monitorize all the KPIs that we have to have in the process. We have to define different KPIs to understand the performance, to understand the efficiency, to understand the efficacy. So using business activity monitoring tools, we will be able to show all the KPIs using dashboards, and we'll be able to take decisions to improve the processes and to understand where is any possibility scenario of performance. So we are able to make performance questions to our process model and even inside the different processes instances. So we make questions about the operational data, but it's very interesting to understand that when we define the business process model, you can understand that the process has to go by this flow. But maybe when you are investigating about the real process, how is real executing the process people, we can understand that there is another workflow paths in the workflow. So we have exceptions. You can see here in this row, we see a different paths that we are not considered in the first model. In that case, we are using process mining. The process mining is a discipline that uses software to understand the conformance questions to the process. That means to understand the differences between the theoretical process that we have modeled and we have in the BPMS and the real process that people is using with different systems. For instance, with process mining, we can understand that this user here in this activity is connecting maybe to an ERP, for instance, to SAP, but maybe we don't know that they are using also a CRM application. But when you are using process mining, we are able to understand the logs, the event logs of all systems in the company, and we will be able to know that in this task we are also making queries to CRM. So we can understand the real process and we will be able to make changes. And even we will be very focused to understand bottlenecks, to understand different scenarios to improve the process. And even we have another discipline is task mining that is able also to understand using software in the desktop to understand the different steps that the different users are using to execute the tasks. But it is very important in the BPM discipline to understand that we have to study the process in order to optimize the processes. And we will be able to use two kinds of analysis: qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis. The qualitative analysis is very focused to Lean and Six Sigma to understand the different problems and to look for the different root cases of the problems using, for instance, Ishikawa diagram. And in that case, we are using different tools and different methodologies to understand potential inefficiencies of the process in order to be improved. But we have a great tool. This is business process simulation. This is a quantitative analysis to understand what if I change any resources in the process, what if we have, for instance, now 100, normally, for instance, I have 100 instances by day, and now what if we have 1,000 process instances? We're able to respond to that quantity of inputs. So with business process simulation, we will be able to simulate how the process is going to be executed and how the KPIs change. And if we have the same performance or better performance, or we lose in quality, we lose in about time, cost, etc. So it is very interesting to understand that for the developers, these kind of tools we are able to use with BPMS, but we don't need to program these tools. So at the end, my conclusion is it is better to use BPM than custom development when we like to have a process-driven application. In that case, we summarize the 5 reasons that I mentioned before. First of all, clarity requirements with business process model notation and BPM, with the same language for business and IT. Secondly, the ability to orchestrate processes end-to-end without coding by default with the BPMS. We will have the maximum traceability of the process and the visibility, the real visibility of the process in real time, and that is very important. We will be able to have capabilities of digitization and automatization without limits, so you will be able to automate anything of the process. And even I have mentioned to use BPMN and DMN. You have also used CMMN in order to have the requirement to model cases, to model an structured process, the process that is modeling when are you executing the process. So we will be able to use CMMN. It's very important to understand when you are develop application, process-driven applications, with BPMs, you will be able to have the application very quicker. So you have a great time to market. And you have cost savings in the development phase and in the maintenance phase. And with different kinds of tools, BAM, process mining, and using the qualitative and quantitative analysis, you will be able to optimize the processes to have the best performance of the process. You will be able to be very efficiently, very efficacy, and at the end, very effectiveness. To have an effectiveness process, does this mean that you are using the right resources in the process. This is efficiency. And you are efficacy with the process. You get the goals of the process they are looking for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pedro. So we have already some questions, and I'm going to read them to you. For the audience, if we don't have time, just so you know, if you don't have time to answer all of the questions, don't worry. We will answer them on the blog post on community.bonitasoft.com. So don't worry. So first question. Yeah, if we are publishing the slides, yes, of course, we will publish them on the on our blog post, as I said, and you can even see the details. Maybe some details were not very visible in there, so don't worry. The second question: which are your expectations for the future on the job market for the BPMN developers?
Great. There is a great opportunity for developers or BPM professionals. Currently, the 66% of the demand of professionals is not covered. So there are a great opportunity in all parts of the world to make a career on BPM. So this is a great opportunity currently. All companies, they have processes, they want to improve the processes, and now there are many companies that they are modeling processes to understand and to make the documentation of the process. In many cases, it's mandatory, for instance, for ISO standard to have the process map and also to have the documentation of the processes that you have in the company. Normally, the value change processes, you will have to be defined or to have documentation about that. So if you use a BPMN, you will have a repository of the processes and you will be able to make queries about the processes. So great opportunity to make career with BPM.
Thank you, Pedro. Next question. If you had to begin BPM in a company that doesn't have any grading process, where would you set the responsible of beginning it? Compliance, engineering, product security, or the most operational part of the company? Where is located the most resistance of change or implementation of BPM flows?
Okay. So the most important thing when we want to start a BPM initiative in any company from scratch is to have a great objective from the board of directors. If we have sponsoring, we have sponsors for the project, we will be able to define the first steps. So the most important thing is to create a BPM group. Maybe 2 or 3 people is enough in the beginning, or even one person if they have to, they will have to make any kind of agreement with external consultants to help in the operation. But for instance, any company will have to define one responsible of process initiatives. And the first things to do is to create the map of processes, to understand the map of all processes that you have, strategy processes, critical processes, all the value chain processes, and also the support processes. And when you have the macro processes defined, and you will have the conceptual processes model defined for each processes, you will be able to be focused on the improvement of the processes. But first of all, you will have to define the process owners, the responsibles of the process. They are business people, and these business people will be responsible to define the process and to understand what benefits they are waiting for, and then make different proposals of improvements. The process office may be normally many companies maybe is reporting to IT director, but the most important thing in the future is to be reported directly to CEO or reported to operational director, to the COO, the Chief Operating Officer. And the most resistance that you can find is from people, because people doesn't like changes. So you will have to change the culture of the process. My recommendation is to make a business process maturity model execution. You have to research in your company about the 7 pillars that I have mentioned in the definition of BPM, and you can define different actions in a roadmap to improve in the process-oriented company. And you can also use models, for instance, from Michael Hammer, the process and enterprise maturity model, to understand the maturity of each process and also the capacity of the enterprise to make changes in the processes. So you can define the roadmap of the company about the process initiative that you need.
Thank you, Pedro. Have you experienced any examples that an organization can replace a commercial ERP it has been using by utilizing those BPM concepts and tools?
Okay, if I understand rightly the questions, we have 2 questions in that questions. I mean, one question is maybe you have an ERP and this ERP has a BPMS inside the ERP. Currently, these kind of tools provide to define a workflow inside the ERP to understand the workflows that you have to follow to make different operations with the ERP. Okay, but you are not able to understand the end-to-end process in the company. Currently, when you are focused on any end-to-end process in the company, you can understand that you have an horizontal process that you are using different departments in the process. So in many cases, you will have to use an ERP applications to execute attacks, but in other cases, you will have tasks that don't use the ERP. So currently, it's more efficiency to use a BPMS where you are orchestrating an end-to-end process, and in this end-to-end process, you define what activities you have to connect to ERP and make transactions. So the question is, if you have a commercial ERP that have workflows inside, it's very interesting to define that workflows, but you are focused on the application. But if you have the requirement to define the process, end-to-end process in the company, you will have to define in which activities you are connecting to the ERP and make the transactions about that. You can make the connections using the APIs of the ERP and you make the programmation, but you are able also to use connectors to different ERPs, so you will be able to make the transaction very quicker from the BPMS. The only thing is, if you are using connectors to ERP, the cost, maybe the connector is so high. So you have to understand if the return of investment of the connector is interesting for you or not.
Thank you, Pedro. I will say this will be the last 3 questions, but we have other ones. But as I said, yeah, we will answer them on the blog post.
Okay.
Question: is CMMN dead?
No. The only thing is that maybe CMMN, the case management model annotation standard, is not frequently used by people for the companies. The issue is that the triple crown of notations from Object Management Group is a BPMN, DMN, BPMN for processes, DMN for decision, and CMMN case management for cases. The issue is that in any company you have structured processes that you are able to define before to execute. So you can use BPMN and the automation of business rules using DMN. But you have also many cases that you are not able to define the process before the execution. I call these processes unstructured processes, and you are not able to define with BPM. So you will have to use CMMN, the case management model annotation. So it's not dead, but it's not frequently used.
Thank you, Pedro. To your opinion, manager sponsoring is the best to begin, but how to make emerge the processes from the usual habits of users?
Okay, it is a great challenge, of course, but the issue is that you have to understand that when you define a business process model, you have to have all the stakeholders. So people that are using currently or are executing manually any process or with the habits that they have, they will be participate in the definition of the process. So at the end, you will be able to make the change because people has participated in the business process definition. And you will have to understand that the business process execution, you define different forms and you are providing to the user a form with all information that they need to execute the task. So the habits, they don't need to use that habits because they will have an applications in any task of the process. They will have an interface, they will have a form, and they will be able to execute the process without the wrong habits. But normally you will have to make a capacitation or training of the business process in order to change the habits. But it's very easy because they have participated in the definition.
Thank you, Pedro. And yeah, this is the last questions. So people are asking about the Bonita solution in particular, about the trainings, about the cost. So what I can tell you is the best way to get this information is going to bonitasoft.com. We do have trainings. I know we have 3 trainings, one especially for developers, so you get to know what BPM looks like in Bonita. We have also one for less technical people, and we also have one for IT administrators. So I think, yeah, the best one to tell you about the trainings is bonitasoft.com, or you can write an email to trainings at bonitasoft.com. Sorry. Thank you, Pedro, for sharing your knowledge with us. And I hope that you had, as me, learned a lot about this subject when we are developers, traditional developers. What does BPM offer to us? Thank you a lot, and see you next time. Next month, we have the new version of Bonita, so don't miss it.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.